Today, we're going to rank every weapon in Starfield so you know which you want to pick up and which are literally unplayable. Yeah, I don't know who designed that. But starting off, we have the AA-99. This gun is pretty standard, nothing special, 25 magazine, medium fire rate gun. It takes down enemies pretty well, but I'm not that excited about it. Like, look at this lady avoid all the bullets. Okay, this gun is D tier. Next up, we have the Arc Welder. Looks pretty cool, laser, alternative to the cutter. This thing does no damage, and the sound it makes sounds like it isn't even a weapon. The lightning attack is kind of cool, it's unique, B tier. Next up we have the Auto Rivet, low fire rate, but insanely high damage. Sounds like it'll be fun. Let's start off by one-shotting this enemy. Even on a headshot, okay, yeah, that's F tier. What is this weapon? But on to the next, Beowulf. This is a fun and solid semi-automatic. Pretty nice looking, good sound, high damage. Why is this lady jogging so slow? Does she not realize there's a maniac here? Ah, there we go. C tier. Next up, we have the Big Bang. This thing is very cool. Unique animation and feels incredibly good taking out all these enemies. S tier. Now the Breach. Another shotgun which is low range and doesn't do a ton of damage, but it looks cool because it's big and it made this lady flip. B tier. Next up we have the Bridger. 4 magazine with a tiny range and comparable damage as the Auto Rivet. Let's test this out. Okay, this gun is crazy fun. You can take out groups of enemies, you can target one down, and you can even snipe enemies in the most satisfying way. The travel time, the explosion, the accuracy, the high damage make this the greatest weapon of all time. S tier. Next up is the Coachman. Cool little sawed-off shotgun that looks cool. For some reason, Andrea came down and started attacking me. I guess she didn't like the gun, so D tier. Now we have the Cutter. We all know the Cutter, lights people on fire, big damn, easily lower S tier, high A tier. Next up, the Drumbeat. Solid gun, seems like a good basis for mods and things. I think it looks cool, handles well, but it seems like it's not able to handle this citizen even with a dozen bullets in her. She's still just running around, so C tier. Next, we got the Ecliptic Pistol, which is not a pistol. I don't know if this is some kind of bug or glitch or something, but the ammo it needs doesn't exist, and the downsights look like this. Maybe this gun is good if it works, but it doesn't for me. WT F tier. Next up, we have the Eon. Lame pistol D tier. Now the Equinox, this guy is pretty cool. Nice semi-automatic and laser weapon. Doesn't do a ton of damage, so it's kind of boring. But overall solid if you can get the damage up with mods, and it's a good early game weapon. Next we got the Ember. This is a rare weapon obtained through a quest. It looks super cool. It lights people on fire, it's fun because it's a pistol, and it has a nice animation of bullet. I love the gun, it's amazing, S tier. Next up is the Grendel. This one is fun, fast firing gun, good to swap for quick kills, and fills the fantasy of the Call of Duty MP5, which I always loved. Very satisfying sound, B tier. Next up, the Hard Target. Quick firing, fun, modifiable sniper, very good, and fun to use with high damage. But there are better guns out there, so B tier. Next, we have the Kodama. Basically the same as the Grendel, but looks smaller and spacey. I kind of think it's stupid though, so D tier. Next up is the Kraken. Did you ever want a pistol that was fully automatic? Neither did I, F tier. Now we have the Lawgiver. It's a weird rifle-y, snipery thing that has a nice classic look. It doesn't do a ton of damage and requires a headshot. I can't imagine it ever being used for anything, so we're gonna do F tier. Next we have the Maelstrom. Very high fire rate, low damage, and low magazine. I also can never find a reason I would ever use this gun, F tier. Next we got the Magshear. Huge fire rate, 75 magazine with decent damage. It's very satisfying and actually does a ton of damage. This is a great late game weapon, especially if you add a few mods on it. I love the look of it and love the green lights on it, S tier. Next we have something similar, the Mag Pulse. It's a good late game slow fire rate rifle. Satisfying green lights like the Mag Shear, easy S tier. Next we got the Mag Pistol. It's pretty cool, but I don't think this concept actually works well as a pistol. It's kind of weird having the single fire green dots thing. It's just not good, C tier. Next we got the Mag Sniper. Big damn, look cool, S tier. Next we have the Magstorm, and wowie, this gun is fun. 160 magazine and a ton of damage on top of looking cool with the glowing lights. This is an easy S tier gun, very fun. Next up we have the unique Nova Blast Disruptor. It doesn't do any damage but instead just stuns people. But for some reason it doesn't work on the main enemy found all over major cities. Even this guy can't be affected by it. I don't know if this is a bug or something, but since it looks cool and is unique, it'll still make A tier. Next up is the Nova Light. It's a particle beam pistol. Definitely fits the vibe of Starfield. It does good damage, good mag size, and most importantly, when you kill someone, it leaves this little orb and effect that is super satisfying. A tier. But keep in mind, these are all still just the base weapons. We're gonna get to the legendaries soon. Next, we have the Old Earth Assault Rifle. Pretty basic medium gun with decent damage. I wouldn't want to use it, so C tier. Next, the Old Earth Hunting Rifle. Very classic, lame sniper. D tier. And we got the Old Earth shotgun. On the other hand, this feels good. It feels like what a shotgun should be, and it's actually very satisfying to use. B tier. Next, the Orion. This sniper makes a cool noise and is fun to shoot. A tier. Then we have the Pacifier. This is another classic shotgun. It fires quickly, but doesn't do a ton of damage, so not very fun overall. D tier. Next, we have the Rattler, which is another automatic pistol. Yeah, we'll just put you right there. Now we have the Razorback, super solid pistol. I love the futuristic look, the power, and the fantasy of a 6-shooter. Amazing gun. A tier. Next up, another solid pistol called the Regulator. It does good damage and it's solid overall, but in all ways it's worse than the Razorback, so B tier. Next we've got the Shoddy. It's very fast fire rate, not a ton of damage, but pretty funny to just burn through ammo. A tier. Then we have the Side Star. This does not do a ton of damage, but it's easy to pick up early game as a semi-automatic weapon, so D tier. Next, we've got the Solstice. It's very cool. Laser pistol lights people on fire, large magazine, and has a cool firing effect. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it doesn't matter since it's so cool. A tier. Next, we have the Tombstone, which is interesting. It does a ton of damage, but with only a 20 magazine size, it's not super fun. B tier. Then we have the Urban Eagle. It's a 7-shot solid pistol. Not crazy fun or interesting, so D tier. Then we finally get to the Varun weapon. So we've got the Varun Inflictor, which is a particle beam rifle and is the classic late game weapon. It does insanely high damage, has a cool effect, and very unique look compared to the other weapons. Love this line of weapons. S tier. Next, we have the Varun Painblade. All right, I haven't been going over the melee weapons because even thinking about how melee was implemented in Starfield makes me really sad. But I do like this one because of this interaction I had. This lady was so offended by my attack and just gives me a stare down. She made me feel bad about myself. Next is the Varun Star Shard. This weapon is a super cool particle beam pistol. It does a ton of damage, feels good, but isn't special because of the Solstice. A tier. Alright, we have now made it through all the base weapons. Now time to go over the unique weapons, the legendaries. Starting up first with the Despondent Assassin, which was really disappointing. Yes, it is a very good sniper, but looks pretty basic and boring. Honestly, I have to put it in an F tier because it's such a letdown. I love snipers and this is not what I wanted. Next up is Eternity's Gate, which is a legendary particle beam rifle. This thing is nuts. This is the real late game sniper you need. Even though it has a higher fire rate and magazine, it is way more fun than the Despondent Assassin. You can still snipe people from crazy far away. It's truly amazing. S tier. Next, we have the Keel Hauler. Looks super badass. It's got a damage value of 321. This thing is crazy. Fortunately, it's an automatic pistol, so I hate it. I do love the look of this one, and it does do crazy damage. So with a heavy heart, it's an F tier. Next up is Memento Mori, and this is more like it. It's a pistol that just explodes on contact and is super fun. It's got a unique animation, S tier. Next up, we've got the Revenant. It's another badass looking weapon, and this thing is huge. 150 magazine and insane high fire rate. This guy is so fun, I had to test it on everyone. No matter who I attack, no one stands a chance. I did get the opportunity to explode the Hunter with it, and I assume I just won the game. It gets wins the game tier. But we don't have time to think about that because next up is the Unmitigated Violence. This gun is actually very satisfying because it does so much damage while making a tiny little pew pew noise. It effectively functions as a sniper and is very unique. S tier. Next up is Davis Wilson's rifle. It's a pretty standard and boring rifle with the only special thing being the gradient color. D tier. Same deal with the Peacemaker. For a unique weapon, it's pretty boring. D tier. Next is the Unfair Advantage, which even though I love how it looks, it's just got too much going on. I don't have 20 minutes to read and comprehend what all this writing means, and for that reason, I'm out. C tier. The Ambassador, this one looks stupid, makes me want to give it D tier, but the fact that if you give it unlimited ammo and just fire, it looks so sporadic, makes me kind of laugh, and love it. A tier. Next up is the Ashta Tamer, which is similar to the Bridger, which does the big explosion. It kills a ton of enemies, but just feels like it's trying too hard to be the love of my life, the Bridger. But it still makes A tier because killing all these enemies at once feels really good. I do really like this one, but I saved my favorite 2 weapons in the entire game for last. Next up is the Experiment A7. This shotgun feels like another classic, where it does do big damage, but I don't really like how it looks or feels when attacking the enemies. I do see the value in a big damn shotgun, so we'll give it B tier, despite its looks and feel. Next up is the Fiscal Quarter. Pretty fun to use, it shoots fast and has a scope. I like the look, so even though it isn't very high damage for late game, we'll give it B tier. Now another melee weapon, the Fortune's Glory. If you want to be a maniac psychopath who stabs people, this one's for you. I just found this animation pretty funny because it's legitimately just shanking people. C tier. Next up is Gallows Reach. It's a pretty boring basic weapon for a unique weapon. I have to give it D tier again. Nothing really cool about it besides poisoning. Next up, we have the Heller's Cutter, which has fewer rounds than the regular cutter. I can't believe this thing is a unique weapon. It just use a regular cutter. A regular cutter is better. Why is this in the game tier? Next up is the Peacekeeper. Looks lame, just shoots like normal, belongs in D tier. Next up we have the Tempest. This looks really cool and has a cool name. It does electricity damage, which is awesome. You electrocute one enemy and it spreads to others. Very unique trait, S tier. Next up we have the Mutineer. Looks very cool, high damage, could be fun. Okay, yeah, we'll just put it right there. Next up is the Last Priest. It's another melee weapon, but this one poisons enemies. Honestly, I just put this one on the list because even though it's a rare epic weapon, it just looks like swatting flies away. I enjoy that animation. A tier. Next up is the Unrestrained Vengeance. It's amazing. It's a laser sniper and does a ton of damage. Double the lasers, double the fun. Easy S tier. Next up is the X989 microgun. This microgun, which is basically just the Deathbringer from Call of Duty Zombies, is alright. If you like this kind of thing, it's cool, but for me, D tier. Next one's a Justifier, which is pretty mid. Does fine damage, but a tiny mag, so pretty bad F tier. Next, we have the Sir Livingston's pistol, which is literally the starting pistol in Call of Duty Zombies. Luckily, I like that game, so A tier. Next up, the Solus. Very average pistol, C tier. Now finally, my two favorite weapons in the game. Jake's Hangover Cure. Despite the dumb name, this weapon looks cool and has an amazing effect. It just lights people up with its crazy space effect and does an insane amount of damage even in the late game. Very unique weapon, very cool. S tier weapon. Number one is Deadeye. This pistol looks so cool and has a scope. It functions like a sniper and is actually the coolest weapon in the game. You just snipe people with a pistol. That's so fun. But more importantly than that, someday you will die. But don't think about that. Watch another one of my videos instead.